Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Runner EDQ's presentation on GeoData. We are going to stop promptly at 2 o'clock, which is going to be approximately in 1 minute. If you have any questions along the way, make sure you use the chat or the Q&A availabilities that are here in Zoom. And we have our moderator today, Misty, who will be manning those in order to be responded to. So I'll get back into that answer period here in just a few minutes. All right, well, it's 2 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining Runner EDQ's presentation on GeoData, the enhancement add-on. I am joined today. My name is Eric Pye. I'm the Director of Marketing Sales here at Runner EDQ. And I'm joined today by Scott McGrath. He is one of our senior developers here at Runner EDQ, and he will be handling a lot of the technical aspects of GeoData and giving us a small demo. And I'm also joined by Misty Wilmore, our customer success manager, and she is currently manning the chat and Q&A part of things. She will be manning that, and we will answer questions along the way at the end. So this is going to be a small Q&A session at the very end of our webinar today, and we will answer the questions in the order that they're received, and hopefully this will enable folks to get the answers that they want as it applies to GeoData and its functionality. Again, thank you very much. We are going to be presenting here for approximately 45 minutes. If you have to leave early, don't worry. We will send a recording of this presentation to those who have registered for the webinar. So without further ado, let's get on to our webinar. So again, this is Runner EDQ's presentation of GeoData, the enhancement add-on, which is going to enhance your address data with geographical and census data sets. So right away, we're going to talk a little bit about Runner EDQ and our data quality integrations, and this is one of them. Data enhancements, obviously, you may or may not have. This is a webinar specifically for our customer base, and as such, you are enjoying the features of Clean Address, which is one of our integrations, and as such, these are integrated into different ERPs, HCM modules, finance modules, and student information systems collectively. This particular integration is specifically for Oracle databases. So there is that particular limitation. However, we will talk to this particular enhancement and integration at length in this webinar. So as you do have Clean Address as your existing product, Clean Address includes all of the data quality solutions for dealing with address data management, as you may already know. It's very unique in the way that it is seamlessly integrated into your different ERPs and student information systems. It has been tested over time. We've been established since 1997. So as you can imagine, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of users up to this point. We know that it's accurate, obviously, from the standpoint of its database that we validate against. And as you all know, it's very cost effective in its immediate return on investment. Today's part is going to be how we can enhance the validation, corrections, and standardizations that you currently have with another set of data tools that hopefully will help you in your various areas. So obviously with that, it goes right into GeoData itself. So the Runner EDQ GeoData contains scripts for creating Oracle database tables and indexes, along with a PL SQL package for accessing the data. So we do have the ability to take your existing functionality with Clean Address and definitely enhance it with other data sets that are included with GeoData. GeoData, at a glance, is going to include these types of fields. So we're going to have a latitude and longitude component. So having that latitude and longitude of an address will help you identify and visualize where it is located geographically. We're going to provide the census tract, which is the permanent statistical subdivisions of a county. Census tracts are statistical subdivisions of a county that aim to have roughly 4,000 inhabitants. We are also going to provide the census block, which is the smallest geographic area for which the Bureau of Census collects the tabulates decennial census data, which is obviously collected every 10 years. And we're also going to provide the county, the largest territorial division for a local government within the state of the United States. And the Congressional District, which is a territorial division of a state from which a member of the U.S. House of Representatives is elected. There are a couple of other data sets that are also provided as part of GeoData, and I just highlighted the ones that I thought were most pertinent, but others will be included as part of the deliverable for GeoData. So at this point, I've given you a quick overview of what GeoData is and some of the fields that you'll be getting as part of the enhancement to your existing clean address data. And at this point, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Scott McGrath to talk a little bit more about GeoData in terms of the installation and how it would work within your Oracle database. Scott?
What you're looking at now in Eric's presentation is the actual contents of the GeoData update file that you'd be getting quarterly from us. The create scripts only need to be run one time. They create the tables that get populated, and basically when you receive your first GeoData installation CD, there's a readme.txt file within this GeoData folder that tells you the proper order to run the create scripts in order to create the data files. But then going forward, you would just run the load GeoData command every time you get a new installation, and it will clear out your tables and repopulate them with the new data that we get from the Census Department. So you just run load geodata.cmd. There's also a load geodata.shell, and whether you're on Linux or Windows, it will populate your database tables with new data. There's a lot more .txt files than you're seeing here. We just started with AL and AK, and they go down to WV and WY for the 52 states and territories that get populated. Next. And that's the full contents that you can forward on. So you just run the load data and it will populate your data for you. And that's what it's saying up there at the top. Once you have the data populated, you would be using the packages geocoder .pkg in order to access data. And do you have another script that you're talking to, Eric?
I don't, unless there's one that you wanted to include.
No, I thought there was a banner screen that you were going to talk to.
Yes, we do have another slide that has the banner screen. Sorry.
This is a listing of the procedures that are within the clean geocode package. As you go through the presentation, you can just see the information that you get back. The primary procedure is geocode, which you pass the zip code +4 into, and it comes back with all of the information associated with that zip +4 within the United States, the latitude, the longitude, the county code, and there's some other ancillary functions and procedures that you can do to get better data based upon the return fields that come back from the geocode. For instance, the place FIPS comes back, but you might need to use the get place FIPS name which you pass the FIPS code into, and it'll come back with the, in the case of Boca Raton, which is our ZIP+4, it would come back with Boca Raton City. It also comes back with a fairly large set of information on county and city having to do with the population, the size of the geography, and the amount of water frontage in that FIPS. It also has some census data associated with it as well. Next. These are standard mathematic functions having to do with the latitudes and longitudes. You can use these as functions at any point in time. Basically, you pass in 2 latitudes and 2 longitudes, and it'll get you the distance between those 2 points on a globe. It'll give you the bearing in compass distance, and it'll give you the general directional within, also on a compass, so that you can see whether or not the second latitude and longitude is north, west, southeast from the first. Next.
So this would be your typical, and again, we're using Banner Spaden form for this particular discussion. As Scott was mentioning before, we do provide a lot of returned field information with every transaction with clean address. And as everyone does use clean address here, the return lines are going to be your house number, your street number, your city, your state, your zipper postal code, the county, and provided that there's a field for it in the Banner form or page or whatever you might be using for the applications here, there will be a return and that field will be populated. However, there is a lot of information that is returned when we do a transaction with clean address that does come back, but it actually doesn't have anywhere to go because there's not a field for it in either the form or the page or the screen that you might be in. And with that being said, we're going to talk about that along with the extra points that you're going to get with the GeoData additional enhancement. So that's where we'll take this next quick demo. And this is what Scott was mentioning earlier. This is our Banner demo. So we're just going to do one transaction and show basically what we would normally do in our normal course of business by adding an address. So we're going to add in 6530 West Rogers, our suite number 31. We're going to misspell Boca Raton. But once we get to that last trigger event, which was going to be the house number, the street number, the city, the state, once we got to that state field, that was enough to trigger the call to the clean address engine, validate it, and bring back the information that is normally associated with clean address by not only correcting the address and updating it to the format standards that you have, but at the same time adding the ZIP+4, the county, and of course, in this particular case, we also added the delivery point, correction digit, and carrier route because the fields were available for it. However, there is a lot of information also associated with this address that clean address did provide that is not visible on this particular form. So in that, I'm going to pass the presentation back over to Scott to discuss this a little bit further and also talk about GeoData and the enhancements that you would be receiving with that particular part of the subscription. Scott? I'm going to stop share at this point. Scott, you take it over from here.
Oh, I've got it.
Yeah, we can see your screen, Scott.
Yeah, well, one of the the issues that we've got with anything that comes back with Oracle data is that you do need to have someone technically proficient in Oracle in order to do something with the data. In most cases, what a customer would be doing would be to use the post address user exit and take the data that's coming back that does not go into the banner page in this instance and put it into a table like clean addresses, which is included as part of the package. I'm sorry about the dogs barking in the background. I don't know what's going on. Um, in this particular case, I've got a straight SQL script, which has the same address information that Eric was just using within Oracle to call the clean address procedure and the geocoder procedure and print out all of the information that comes back. So without GeoData, we're getting all of this information from clean address. And if you have geocoder enabled, you will also get the census tract, census block latitude and longitude. Geocoder is another premium package similar to GeoData that you can get. It's a little bit more expensive than GeoData, which is interesting because if you have GeoData installed, you don't just get the latitude, longitude, census tract, and census block. You also get the county FIPS and county place code, plus the geocoder level and congressional district level. You also have a table called places, which you can use to query the FIPS codes that come back to get the demographic data based on those places. So in this case, we've got Boca Raton with the population, the number of housing units on it, the land, and water associated with that place. As I said, you have all of this information available to you, and you can use it within SQL commands, but then you're going to have to determine how it is that you need to use this information that's coming back and utilize it in whether it's a third-party application outside of Banner or whether it's mailing for a mail merge or whether it's a table that you want to populate with information and insert the information that you're requiring from the GeoData package into that table or application. Does that make sense? And unfortunately, if we're using Banner or PeopleSoft, there really isn't any utilization of either geocoder information or census information within those applications. So you're leveraging the clean address verification and validation in order to get extra information, but then you need to take that information and place it someplace. In this case, I'm just printing it to a screen so you can see it, but you can just as easily, instead of put line, insert it into a different table or log it. Eric?
Thanks, Scott. And so what we'll do is, I think at this point, that's the end of our demo as it applies to GeoData. And at that point, let's get back onto, I think, our wrap up as far as questions and answers are concerned.
I will say that these three scripts are available for download. It's something that's handy to have anyway, since it allows you to see a demonstration of how you actually pull information from the functions and procedures that are living in your database already.
Awesome. So we are actually at the end of our presentation as far as the demo is concerned, but I wanted to open this up to questions and answers and get questions and answers as we've wrapped up the demo and of course the initiation of what GeoData is. Misty, I'm going to actually let you get into this now and go through the chat in the Q&A to answer, enable us to answer some of the questions that have come through. Misty?
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And I do want to mention the fact that I'm not seeing any questions in chat, so I'm not sure if I'm actually having an issue with my Zoom account in chat. However, I do see questions in Q&A. So if anyone put any questions in chat, I'm going to ask you to just type that same question in Q&A just to make sure that your question is getting seen and asked. So the first question we have is, will this data be refreshed or updated with the clean update utility script for Linux or Oracle?
And it will be updated. It will be put on your machine, but you will still need to run the update process, the update procedure yourself from a SQL+ prompt.
Awesome. Next question. Are there any canned reports already built?
No, there are not. And I'd be open to a request to put together a canned report, and I'll definitely throw that together. Everyone that we've got that's running GeoData is doing it for specific purposes right now, and I don't believe anybody's been forthcoming enough to give us their reports. So I would need to have somebody request a listing of either generic groups of people. How many people do we have living 5 miles from this data point, 50 to 100 miles from this data point, or more than 500 miles from this data point, with numbers, or basically the equivalent of a name, address, latitude, longitude output. I'm coming up with ideas for ways that you could do it, but there are so many different purposes for this kind of information. I would need to have some generic ideas that would be useful for someone in the higher education vertical.
Awesome. Next question. Would GeoCoder then also include the GeoDate going forward?
GeoCoder contains very similar information to the GeoData as it is. The difference being that one is from the Census Department and one is from the USPS. I'm not sure what
Next question.
GeoDate would be. The 3 scripts are just 3 scripts that I wrote up for the purposes of this demonstration this morning. One of them is a Windows command script that translates the input that I typed into parameters that are passed to an Oracle PL SQL procedure. And the other 2 are, first of all, a listing of all of the fields that come back from clean address when you pass it an address. And the other one is specific to GeoData, which takes the latitude, or that takes the zip code, the +4, and the country code, and comes back with information from that.
Awesome. Next question. Is there any ability to use Oracle Spatial inside or outside of shapes?
No, only because I haven't really looked at geospatial within Oracle yet.
Next question. With this new feature, will it be included in whatever package the school already has, or is this an additional cost?
It is an additional cost. It's not a new feature at all, actually. It's been available for quite some time.
Next question. Are you doing anything to improve your international clean address verification?
The international address verification that we do is based on third-party verifications. The address doctor third party is actually doing a really good job of getting much better over the last couple of years. I'm seeing tremendous strides going forward in the ability for them to come up with valid addresses. A lot of that is also based upon the individual government organizations that are handling the data for each of the backends. Both of our third-party backend providers are amalgamating the database information from the individual countries that are supplying it. We get all of our validation and verification from the individual postal services for each of the countries. And right now, the United States and Canada are by far the best, but it was only about 5 years ago that you could not get valid information back from anybody outside of Western Europe. And I'm finding that China and India and Pakistan and a lot of places that did not have any valid information coming back to speak of are getting much better now.
Awesome. Next question. How much additional is this product?
Eric, that one's
Yep.
for you.
So the baseline price, and again, this would go along with your enterprise licenses that everyone currently has with Clean Address. The pricing would be approximately $4,000. That will go up a little bit or a little bit lower, depending on the size of your database, but that's relatively the price that we have it at list.
Awesome. And the next question is GeoData part of Clean Address, or is it a separate product we have to pay for? And I believe we answered that question. So the next question it says an example counts by U.S. states. And I believe that is a add-on to the question as far as with geocoder then also include the geodate going forward. And then they gave an example counts by U.S. state.
Scott?
That would be extremely different based upon the state. Since each of the individual records is a ZIP+4, the more populous a state and the larger a state, then the higher the number.
Next question. Is there an additional charge to run or use? And again, that question was answered. Next question, will this data be exposed via the Clean Adder web service?
No, it is not exposed by the Clean Adder web service. If you want the Clean Adder web service to come back with this sort of information, you'd have to get geocoder or geopoints.
And then there is a more or less a statement in a question. It says that is an example report, but without any more content. I'm not sure again if that is a question. And I believe that is the last that I'm seeing in our Q&As. And remember, I'm not seeing anything in chat. I'm not sure if it's an issue with my Zoom account at this point in time. So we'll give another minute to see if there's any other Q&As that will come through before we close it out. Give you guys some time. Oh, thank you, Rhonda. Rhonda said that chat is disabled, FYI. Thank you. And I was wondering, okay, thank you for that. We'll look into that for our next webinar. We'll ensure that that feature is turned on. It's normally turned on by default, so that's something new that Zoom has added there. So thank you for that. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to do a 10-second countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. It's kind of quick. It's more like a quick countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All righty. I don't see any more questions in there, so I'll pass it back to Eric to close us out.
All right. Really appreciate it, Misty. So thank you very much for spending your time today and this afternoon with RenedyQ and our presentation on GeoData. We will be reaching out to the folks here that have attended just to see if there's any further interest. And in addition to that, we are also going to send you a recording link for this particular webinar, just in case you wanted to take a look at it a little bit closer in what Scott had presented on his end, or perhaps with some of the features that are included with GeoData. We will include also in our outreach to you is a quick guide on the clean address GeoData enhancement. And if you have any questions, we were certainly here to answer them, whether it be on the customer success side on Misty's team, or even if there's a requirement to build out. I think one of the requests was to build out a template. Scott would certainly entertain that side of it as well. And of course, on my side of the world, in terms of pricing and or other information that's needed or required, I would certainly be the liaison to do that. So again, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And just be on the lookout for an email, not only including the link for this particular webinar recording, but also the additional information that I just mentioned attached to it. I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday. And of course, we look forward to continuing to serve you for your data quality needs. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And thanks for joining us today. Goodbye.